Hello. Right. So everyone, I'm just getting everything ready.
Hello.
Hiya.
How are you doing?
Good. Very
Let's go to
good.
my mic.
So I'm just trying to work out how do I press a button that I can't find. Oh, I pinned it. Okay. Good. I think I'm all right. Yeah. How's everyone doing?
Hey, thank you.
Good. Bear with me a second.
Good.
Hang on. Okay, yeah, I think it's working. Great. All right. So, where are we? Here. There we go. Perfect. All right. I can see some of you here, which is lovely. Obviously, you don't have to have your camera on if you don't want to. Absolutely fine. You can carry on doing the washing up, or preparing dinner, or sitting with your feet up eating some, I don't know, apple crumble or something. But lovely to see you all here. So what I'll do is I'm going to press record in a moment, but what I will ask you to do is to just please mute yourself so it won't interfere with the recording if you haven't already. Let's see if I can do it here. Oh yeah, everybody is muted. That's great. Thank you very much. And hopefully everybody else that will come in, actually I can do that, I think. How do I do that? Then I can make sure that they will stay muted as well. I believe I go here. Ah, there we go. Mute all. Okay, so everybody's muted, but you could unmute yourself if you would want to. All right, so let's start off officially. Let's bring our hands together in front of the heart center. Close your eyes for a moment. Let's set our intentions for productive talk, productive conversation, where we can hear and we can listen and we can talk and express ourselves. And may this conversation help to kind of illuminate various aspects that are still unclear and bring them to the front so we can see things clearer and we can move forwards with better understanding. Okay. Right, now I should press record. I should have done that a second ago.
Recording in progress.
Okay, so good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, whatever time you're catching this from the recording if you're not with me here in person live. This conversation this evening, the Dharma talk for March 2024, scary, as well as some extra kind of teachings for the teacher training course some of you are on, is around Yoga Sutras. The last few months we've been going through the Yoga Sutras. The last couple of months we've been going through Yoga Sutras and kind of going deeper and deeper to the teachings that Patanjali has given us in the Yoga Sutras. This month in this talk I just want to kind of tidy it up to some extent, to bring to light, to talk about the last kind of aspects, which I call key elements or key teachings from the Yoga Sutra. There's loads, and we have looked at Yoga Sutras before as part of Thrive, and like I said, we did it for the last 2 months now. The third month, it's not enough really. To be honest, there's so much more. There's first of all, there's lots of content. There's 195 sutras. It's a lot. Plus, every sutra is is multi-layered in a simple way. Every sutra can be understood in so many layers, so many levels. So what we've done is we kind of started to unpack the teachings, to look at certain things, certain elements, and to go slightly deeper within them. And as I said, today this particular talk is about tidying up the rest of it. To help that, I'm going to some extent, present the Yoga Sutras as they are, as we've seen some of them already, and then add in some extra things. Okay, so look at it as a revision for Yoga Sutra, as a summary understanding what is going on in these kind of teachings, what is going on, what is Patanjali is trying to teach us, and how can we make this relevant for us. And this is obviously always very important. It's nice to hear all these kind of maybe highly spiritual conversation, but if it's not relevant, it just ends up as just as interesting conversation until it actually becomes part of your life. It's not that it's meaningless, but it's not as powerful. So the idea will be to understand these things enough so they can be part of your life. Just to say, I'm kind of looking up there rather than down here, because there's another camera there that I'm recording, and the quality is just better, and I'll obviously put that on to be available as a catch-up whenever you want to. So just apologies if I'm not looking there, I'm looking there. Occasionally I'm going to look there, and then there. So apologies about that. Hopefully I won't go both sides in the end. Okay, so as it is, Yoga Sutras with Patanjali. I'll do a quick invocation for Patanjali. Maybe just kind of a quick reminder what or who or what is Patanjali. Patanjali is the Naga Raja, or the Lord or the King of the Nagas, which are the serpentine beings, the lizards. He's a good one. So the legend, the tradition is that there are walking among us Nagas, they're called in Sanskrit. Naga means snakes. So the snakes, beings walking around us, and they hold greater knowledge than us. They're different to us. They are they have more or greater access to the astral plane. So if we're kind of looking at like the dimensions, we have 3 dimensions, that we kind of live in the 3D reality, and then there's a 4th reality, which is the kingdom of the mind, or the astral. So we know when you're 40, you close your eyes, you think of, let's say, the sun, you're there, you're in the sun. You don't need to travel physically. Your 4th dimension is just mind. So the serpents have greater access to the mind, greater access to the astral, and because of that, they can see things that we can't see. So the idea is that by them telling us these things, we can learn a lot, because they have access to things we don't have. Some of them are kind of more beneficial to the human beings, and some of them are a bit less beneficial to human beings. Patanjali, being the Naga, the serpent, or the Raja Naga, the Lord, the king of the serpents, is very beneficial to human beings because he gave us Yoga Sutras. And so according to the legend, not only gave us Yoga Sutras, he also gave a very important book about grammar, as in the understanding of Sanskrit. He also gave a very important book about Ayurveda, the understanding of how to live day-to-day life. When scholars have kind of looked at these books, they realize they don't really follow any logic of time. One of these books is kind of from 1000 before Common Era, and one of them is 500 years after Common Era. So how old is Patanjali? Well, logically it doesn't really make sense. But most of these things are not really logical. So take it or leave it. Maybe he's an immortal being, has been living here for a long time, maybe still around us. Don't really know. Either way, out of respect, we'll do a short invocation. So what you want to, if you know it, you can repeat as well. If you don't know it, just listen. It's a very simple invocation, basically saying, I pay homage to Patanjali, the great master, who gave us the knowledge of Ayurveda to remove impurities of the body, Sanskrit grammar to remove impurities of speech, and yoga to remove impurities of the mind. I bow to the master Patanjali, who is surrounded by light, who has half a human body below, who carries a conch, a disc, and a sword. I pay homage and bow to the serpent king. In Sanskrit it goes like that. Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya vadakenam yopam karotam vananam sukhinam patanjali pranjali ranatosmi. Abahu Purushakaram Shankha Chakra Siddharanam Sahasra Shirasam Shvetam Pranamamim Patanjalim Srimate Anantaya Nagarajaya Namo Namaha. Om. Okay, so key teachings of the Yoga Sutras. The main key elements to the Yoga Sutras, it is not a book to read and to talk about like we're doing now. It is a practice manual. As such, practice is key. Until you kind of learn the teachings, you don't understand the Yoga Sutras. Until you put them into action, you don't understand the Yoga Sutras. So it's not about learning the Yoga Sutras, it's about learning enough to apply it. Yoga Sutra is all about practice. That's, for me, that stands first and foremost. This is not intellectual, tickling. This is about practice. Okay, so we have various sutras, and in fact the first ones, the first sutra number 1 to sutra number 4 explains it. It's all about practice of stilling the mind. Stilling the mind doesn't just happen by itself. It just happens as a result of a practice, a regular practice. Only then we stand a chance, because as I'm sure you know, making your mind stop is at the moment impossible, absolutely impossible. And if you try, it will just rebel and resist. So learning how to find a way to still the mind, that involves practice. Learning how to find this way is obviously involved learning various techniques that you apply as a practice, and then one day it happens. Or not, we still try. When Patanjali talks about stilling the mind, yes, that's his main thing. So if anybody is asking what is yoga according to Patanjali, he gives it in Sutra number 2. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga is the chitta, the mind, and the vritti, the movement of it, Nirodha. We need to stop Nirodha to arrest the movement of the mind, the thoughts coming and going. So one of the main teachings that comes from that is to understand, well, what if the mind is not stopped, as in if the mind is not reaching Nirodha, then what is the mind doing? Okay, so with the Yoga Sutras we have the text itself, and then we have commentaries on the text by various people throughout the generations. People have kind of commented on what they think he meant. There's the original commentary by the sage Vyasa, apparently or supposedly the same guy who has wrote the Vedas, which are again about 5,000 years old. So how can he still be alive if Patanjali has written the Yoga Sutras that might be 450 common era? So again, another immortal being or another conundrum to work with. Some of these things just don't really work to logic. Take it or leave it. So Vyasa wrote a commentary on the Yoga Sutras, and he explained that yes, Nirodha is a potential state of mind, a cessation of movement, of fluctuation of the mind stuff, a state of yoga. But when we are not in this stage, there's 4 other states we can be. And kind of from gross to subtle, the first one is known as kshipta, which is basically distracted. Distracted, or can even say chaotic mind. Most people spend most of their kind of day-to-day waking hours in this stage. Distracted, chaotic, which is why we say the mind is like a drunken monkey being bit by a scorpion. It's completely chaotic. Try to kind of trace back your mind for a minute backwards, and you realize there's absolutely no sense to it. It's absolute madness. Give yourself a whole hour of tracing your thoughts. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. So this is the normal, natural state of mind, where we are just moving from one thing to another, one thing to another, one thing to another, in no particular order, just all over the place. Okay? Stage number 1. Stage number 2 is called Muda, which is a mind which is affected, it kind of rhymes with mood, or sounds a bit like mood, a mind which is affected by a strong mood, or call it emotion. And because it's affected or to some extent controlled, absorbed, overtaken by this strong mood, the strong emotions, it can't think straight. It can't think clearly. There's no clarity because it's just mood. Simple way to think about it, when you are upset, when you are distressed, when you are stressed, when you are depressed, everything looks bad. Everything looks bad. The sunshine, I wish it was hotter. Whatever, anything's happening, it's not good enough because you're affected by a mood. Yeah, so I'm sure you go or move between these stages of being a bit distracted, then being a bit moody. In neither one of these stages can you actually control your mind. Okay, so it's good to recognize, at the moment I'm too moody, I can't do anything about it, so I'm just gonna let it pass, or I can do something about it, I need to do something about it, and so on. Third stage is called kshipta, which is distracted, restless, or diffused, and the mind is, it's like you in the first stage, you're completely distracted, but you want to get into being more present, being a bit more one-pointed. Let's just say you start reading a book, it's really interesting, you really want to read it, but all of a sudden the phone rings, or you get some notification, or the doorman, the door rings and there's some man or woman or postman in the door, or anything else. You hear a sound, you get attracted to that, and your mind starts to move around back into distracted. So it's different because it's not just distracted all the time. There's a tendency or will towards focus, but there's no ability to maintain that focus. Okay, so we're almost there, but we lost it again. From there, we go to the very important stage known as eka grata. Eka means one, grata is thing, so one thing, one focus. That is a focused mind. If you have a focused mind, congratulations. There's not many people around like you because it's very difficult. But we can have glimpses. I can keep my mind focused 10 seconds. Got it. Then I lost it. I can keep my mind focused maybe 20 seconds. Then it's gone again. And so on gradually with time, just like anything else, like a muscle, you train it, you create a pathway, a neural pathway. Your muscle, the biggest muscle is your brain. And then you gradually be able to maintain a state of focus on one thing, ekagrata, for longer periods of time. Of course, you will lose it at some point. Simple example, you go to sleep and then you lost it because you fell asleep. But when you are awake, aiming to extend this period of time, ekagrata. From there, the next stage is nirodha, which is a state of yoga, when the mind completely stops. You're no longer focusing on one thing, you're just in with everything. Yeah, not distracted, with everything. So that's the stages of mind. So why is Vyasa saying that? Because he wants you to kind of look in and be truthful to yourself and ask yourself, where am I on this kind of scale from 5 complete distracted to 1 completely with it? How much time do I spend in one of these? Because you might be going between of them, kind of like moving up the scale, up and down, or bouncing from one to the other. Where are you when it comes to your mind? Okay, so a very important teaching that comes from the Yoga Sutra, know your mind. Know that the goal of yoga is to still the mind. And if you don't know where you start from, you can't go forward. So know where you start from, know where you are now, and know your natural tendencies. Because some people will be more, let's call it in the moody section. Some people will be more in the distracted section. Some people will have moments of insights, very brief. Some people will have long periods of time of insights. It varies. So know yourself. Very simple. A big teaching from the Yoga Sutra. And when we talk about practice, I mentioned before that practice is the first thing. The practice, according to Patanjali here, is to move from this really distracted mind all the way to a very, very still, present, and completely conscious mind. That is the yoga, or that is the practice of yoga. Okay, so very important to understand that. Within the Yoga Sutras is formed out of 4 chapters or 4 books, 4 padas. And within these 4 padas, we have 3 paths. Yes, so I mentioned this before. Hopefully you remember this by now. So we have the path of meditation, high path of meditation, known as Raja or royal path, Raja Yoga. Then we have path of action, when we do things, and that's known as Kriya, which is to do, like karma, actions. So path of action, second path. And then we have third path, which is the 8-limb path. The most famous of the paths of yoga, according to Patanjali, is the Ashtanga Yoga. So famous that some people think that this is what Patanjali is talking about. It's just Ashtanga Yoga. No, it's not. It is just one of the paths that Patanjali is giving out. In fact, it's the lowest path Patanjali is giving. The highest path is the first one, Raja Yoga. The second one, the middle one, is the Kriya Yoga. And the end one is Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga is more for people who are less able. Me, possibly you. People who struggle, who find it hard to do all these things they know they're supposed to do, but they just struggle. So Patanjali, in and it comes out, and we'll see it in various other ways. Patanjali is very kind. He understands humans, and he understands that humans struggle. So he's given lots of options for humans to do the best they can under their circumstances to move forwards. So he starts with the highest teaching, and then he realizes that actually this is not for everyone. Okay, we'll give a slightly lower one. He knows it's not for everyone. We'll give a more easier one for everyone. Within the first path, the path of Raja Yoga, which is what the first book, the first section is dedicated to. Again, we find a gradual progression within that, but there's two key elements here. How do we get to this royal path where the mind stops? And just gonna say here now, I did say that the Yoga Sutras is all about practice. Yes. The goal of the practice is meditation. Okay, so this is a book about meditation. These are teachings about meditation. How do we meditate? It's not just how do we sit and close our eyes. It's how do we get the mind to stop. Yeah. And the first path, using two things, which is known as abhyasa and vairagyam. Abhyasa is the practice, to do, and vairagyam is to let go. So again, another kind of conundrum there, to do and not to do. So I need to do something, but I need to let go of it. How do I do that? That's the first path. It's the hardest path. To do, so Patanjali describes that the effort towards steadiness, and that will be January. I'll mention that a lot more in January. We did a practice all about steadiness, stitihi. The effort towards steadiness is practice. How do you practice? You make an effort to be steady. Okay, you don't do lots of movement. You just stop moving. You don't do lots of breathing. You just stop breathing. You don't do lots of thinking, you just stop thinking. You become steady. Whatever is happening needs to be made steady. Okay? So, not easy. Because the mind's tendency is towards movement, which is why it's called vritti. So they move, they rotate, they turn. It's almost kind of going against the natural tendencies that we have. The natural tendencies of the mind are towards movement. We know that everything in the universe, everything in the cosmos is moving all the time. The saying is the only constant in the universe is change. Yet the Buddha realized that a long, long time ago, 2,500 years ago. In Pali it's called anicca, which means change. Everything changes. Understand the nature of life. It's all about change. So how do we find steadiness when everything is moving all around us? That's a good question. But it's the effort towards steadiness. Patanjali is not saying be steady. He's saying work towards steadiness. That's how you practice. And at the same time he's saying let go. Don't be attached to anything. Let go. Let go of your need to be this, that and the other. Let go of your desire even towards liberation. Let go. Because if you attach, you're trying to stop things from moving. Everything moves all the time. So don't be attached. Let go and just make it still. hard, not easy. But then he starts to unpack it even more. And we have, again, a few core teachings from here. And one of them, so Sutra 114, let me just find it here. Very famous Sutra, 114, there we go. He says that ardent effort to retain the peaceful flow of mind, free of all roaming tendencies, is practice, an effort towards steadiness. And that becomes firmly grounded only when done for a long time, with no interruption and with reverence. How do you do that? You do it a lot. You do it every single day for a very long time. Years and years and years and years and years. Believing in this, even though it is hard. And this is a good point to kind of remind maybe you, me, everyone that to begin with, and if you start practicing yoga perhaps the first month, the first 2, the first year, the first 5, to begin with there's lots of big changes in your life. You start to feel better, the health of your body improves, the health of your breathing improves, your mental health improves, you see lots of changes, very quickly it comes, and then you hit, not a wall so much, but a plateau. So you're climbing, and then there's no change. And you've done the same thing for 2 years, no change. You keep going, another 5 years, no change. This is the test, because you don't know how long this plateau is going to last for. You have to believe that what you're doing is right. You have to believe that what you're following is correct. And you have to believe that if you keep following it, you will get better. But you just can't see it just yet. So you have to have trust. Okay? And then when you have the trust, you keep practicing day in, day out with reverence. You believe in what you're doing. And one day it will get better. You don't know when you're going to turn that corner and when you're going to see the results, but it is there. You just have to be patient. And that's part of the letting go aspect. Letting go of a need for, a date. By this stage, I should be doing this, that, and the other. By now, I've been doing yoga for, a whole 2 years now. By now, surely I should be able to touch my toes. Or by now, I surely should be able to just sit and meditate or hold my breath for 3 minutes. Let go of that. That doesn't really work. Okay, let go. Believe in the system and believe that it will, the fruit of your labor will ripen when the time is right. Okay, so a big, big, big lesson here. Sutra 114, definitely something to potentially memorize or definitely know how to refer to. 114, really easy to remember that. 114. Practice becomes grounded when well attended to for a long period of time without any break and with all reverence. Very simple. Okay, not easy, simple. So letting go. Following that, Patanjali starts to describe samadhi, because the first chapter is a chapter on samadhi, and samadhi is high state of mind. Samadhi is when we are reaching the goal of yoga, which is uniting. And for that, Patanjali is also explained to us the consecutive order by which these samadhi or high states of meditations arise. And I have talked about them in the previous talks, so I'm not going to go back into too much details. Just to explain, we have different levels of samadhi. To some extent, we have 2 categories of samadhi. Samadhi within the mind, as in samadhi that the mind experience, and then samadhi outside the mind. I'll take it back a little bit more. What is samadhi? Samadhi is a high state of meditation. High state of meditation. We have various stages of meditation. Some of them are more sustainable, some of them are less sustainable. Some come and go very quickly, some come and just remain for a very, very long time. Some of them will kind of give you a little bit of a boost. Some will change your life completely. To some extent, samadhi within the mind is lower samadhi, because it's still within your mind, which is limited. At some point, you go past the mind, and that's the highest samadhi. And maybe reserved for the chosen few, I'm not really sure. But I can definitely say that the samadhis that are slightly lower within the mind are there for everyone. And there's a very big misconception, not sure why, not sure how it kind of came about, that samadhi is not for everyone, that it's only for the chosen few, that it's not for me, you, and the person down the road. We can't do that, it's too much for us, we're just too distracted people, it's not for us. And this is a real shame. And this is a really core teaching from the Yoga Sutras, because it's saying, if you're here and if you're learning these things, there's something there that has drawn you in. You have done some sort of preparations. You are ready for samadhi. Maybe not the highest, but definitely to begin with for the lower ones. So practice. Learn how to steady yourself. Samadhi will come. Okay, trust. So again, I'm not going to go through all the samadhis. There's a different lecture, I believe January maybe, or maybe February, I'm not sure. But you can go back and you can listen to those things. But there are different levels of samadhi, and they are suitable according to practitioner. And every practitioner who's earnest, in the effort, wholeheartedness, will find this samadhi. Okay, we'll get to some levels of samadhi. Within that, Patanjali describes two categories of beings that is kind of important to understand. So again, this is Sutra 119, so as in book 1, Sutra 19. Here he talks about two groups of practitioners. One of them are called Prakriti Layana, and the other one are called Videya, or Videya yogis. Prakriti Layanas are those who are born with the understanding of nature. Prakriti means nature, already innate in them. To some extent, you can say they were a realized being, let's say a Buddha, that decided to come back into life and reincarnate so they can share more teachings. They're coming here into this body fully awake. They know everything. They're just here just to experience things again and to spread some more teachings. The other group, it's not that many of them possibly, and the saying is that during Kali Yuga, which is where we are now, the end of Kali Yuga, there are very few of them around. The teaching is no longer kind of held within these masters. These masters are either scattered completely or they're completely hidden, and they keep it hidden. But there's a greater surge with what's known as Videya yogis. Excuse me. And Videya yogis are those who come with a natural tendency, inclination towards spiritual teachings. As in, you were born into any family, any household, whether it's a spiritual household or non-spiritual household, but within you there are questions that need answering. Within you there's a knowing, a just innate knowing that there's something else going on here. This world is not just about money and sex and power. There's something else here worthwhile. How do you know that? You just know it. Yeah? And this is Videya yogis. You are a Videya yogi. The fact that we are sitting here talking about Yoga Sutras means that there is some core of understanding, some core of yearning within us, calling us, pulling us towards this knowledge. Because we must have done it before. Yes, so Videya yogis are those who have done this kind of work again and again and again, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And at some point in your life, depends on the situation, it just kind of, it just kickstarts within you this thirst to find these things. So Patanjali is talking to you. Yeah, Patanjali is talking to you as a Videya yogi. He said, come, I will give you the teaching to complete your search. Because the teaching he has takes you all the way to the top. Okay, Videya yogis. So 119, Videya yogis. So for the Videya yogis, Patanjali is kind of given, this is 120 by the way, Sutra 20 of book 1. Patanjali is given tools, helps, giving a few kind of reminders what to do, because he's saying, as a being that's been reincarnated into this body that you are in now, with this yearning within you towards spirituality, it's like a little seedlings within you that needs protection. As this time of the year, we're kind of into March now. Perhaps some of you already starting to plant some seeds. Maybe in some pots, maybe in the greenhouse, or maybe in your house, or on the windowsill. You know that your seedlings, your seeds, will need protection in the next few months to come before they're strong enough to go outside in the garden, because the weather can be fickle. It could be cold all of a sudden. It could be a frost, and it will kill everything. Obviously, it will need constant tending, so maybe you need to water it more, water it less, depends on the seeds and so on. I'm not talking about gardening here too much. Let's move away from that. In a simple way, we all need to be guarding ourselves as we move forwards, because this path is not easy. It's not easy. It's so much easier to just be completely ignorant and just live life as if there's no tomorrow, and just eat and drink now because tomorrow we'll die. That's easier. 5 things you can do to help yourself. Number 1, shraddha, or faith. Believe that what you're doing is going to bear fruit. Believe in your path. There's absolutely no point carry on doing what you're doing now, assuming that what you're doing is yoga, if you don't believe that it will work. Because it's not going to be easy. In fact, I can promise it's going to be really, really difficult in many situations. You know that you're supposed to be practicing, but you can't wake up in the morning, or you're ill, or whatever. We'll talk about these in a moment. There'll be lots of situations where it's going to be really, really difficult. Really difficult. What gets you out of bed, what gets you into practice, is the belief that this works. It works. And you need to truly believe in that. Not just tell yourself that, I think it works. Truly believe in that. It definitely works. Wholeheartedly. That will keep you moving forward. So that's number 1. Number 2 is virya. Virya means like virility. It's power. It's willpower. The ability to show up again and again and again, even though it's hard, even though the body rebels, even though the body is in pain, even though your mind is all over the place and you can barely breathe because you're completely bunged up with a flu or something. Show up. Willpower. When there's a will, there's a way, So after faith, now get the energy to do these things, willpower, virya. From here we have what's known as smriti, and smriti means, generally speaking, means memory. In this case, it's the memory that there's a few options to kind of understand that. It's either the memory which is dormant within you from past lives, memories of you moving forwards through this path of spirituality, or it's a memory, or you can look at it the other way, which is the memory of all the things you've done that have moved you forwards in this lifetime. So I remember that when I was feeling not so good, I still did the practice and then I felt better. Okay, that will strengthen my hands. That will get me out of bed. That will get me into practicing, because I remember, yes, it does work. So it makes sense that I will carry on applying these things. So either memory of this life and the results of your actions, or deeper memory of perhaps past lives. Most of us don't really remember that, and to some extent we better not remember that, because it would be very, very confusing to live this life if we are too busy remembering past lives. We can just sit there and fantasize about all the amazing things we used to do, but not do what we need to do now. So remembering past life is not necessarily a good thing now, but having a memory of, I know this will work, I don't know why, but I just know it, that's this deep memory, smriti. And from there we have 2 things. One of them is known as absorption power, and the other one is capacity for intuitive seeing. Absorption power is your natural, innate ability towards samadhi. When you just close your eyes and just go, and all of a sudden you realize, wow, I wasn't really thinking about anything. It just happened. I was just there. That's your natural inborn absorption, as in merging into one thing, power. We all have that. We all have that capacity. We are not only a drunken monkey stung by a scorpion. We actually have that ability to sit and to be really still and to be completely absorbed in the moment. Just need to wake it up. Okay, and the last one is the the capacity for intuitive seeing, as in you know when things are right. You just know it. It's that's why I call it intuition. It comes from within you, and that's a quality to definitely cultivate. Trust your instincts, your deep instincts. If you drive down the road and there's a fork there and you think I should be driving left, but something within you is saying go right, go right. Even if nothing good will happen, even if you won't even know why, just start following your instincts, and you develop a better relationship with your instincts, and they will communicate with you clearer and clearer and clearer, and you will see amazing results. And you don't know why you should have turned right rather than left. Who knows? Just trust your instincts. Develop that power within you. Okay, so again, big teachings here from Patanjali. Trust your instincts. Yeah, develop your ability towards absorption. Develop your willpower. Develop your faith in these things. That's how you become a better yogin, a better person, really, in all honesty. And a very important one, again, a very encouraging teaching in Book 1, Sutra 21. Samadhi is near for those who are wholehearted and steadfast. Let me just read it properly so I don't get this wrong. Samadhi is near for those whose aspiration is wholehearted, and steadfast. Samadhi is near. There's a promise there. If he's saying, if you just keep showing up, wholeheartedly, and be steadfast, don't miss a day, Samadhi is near. Okay, even though it might seem like it's impossible to get there, even though you can't see, the horizon is just completely flat, you have no idea if it will ever show up. Trust, it will show up. Samadhi is near. It's near. But you have to be there, steadfast, wholeheartedly, constantly, day in, day out. It will happen. So that's a promise from Patanjali. Okay, so these are kind of big lessons, big teachings. And then following that, we get into a very important aspect here. So let me just find the right page. Oh, there we go. So from Sutra 23 to Sutra 33, so 10 sutras talk about something that Patanjali hasn't mentioned before. And when you think about kind of Patanjali and you think about yoga and you think about maybe the background, if I just move a bit here, you can see, for example, Shiva here behind me, and think about maybe Vishnu or Hanuman or Durga and all these other kind of deities within the Hindu pantheon. Patanjali is not talking about any of them. He's not mentioning Shiva or Parvati or Sati or Krishna or Ganesh or none of them. They're not mentioned at all. Patanjali goes straight into the source of all. And he calls it, he uses the word to describe the source, the creator, and he called it Ishvara. So Ishvara, and he says that Ishvara is a Purusha Shesha. So he's a special being. He's not like any of the other ones. He's not like the gods. He's not human, obviously. He's not like the gods. It's something else, something beyond all these things. So this is the first time that Patanjali is kind of bringing a greater understanding of reality by saying that there is a creator, basically, an originator, a source to everything. And he doesn't give it a name of one of the gods. He just calls it Ishvara. And he says that Ishvara's sound is Om. So the word Om is found a lot in the Vedas, in the Upanishads, also in the Yoga Sutras. What Patanjali is telling us is that Om is the sound, for lack of a better word, of God. What is God? It's a vibration. What is everything? Everything is a vibration. Okay, so we kind of try to look at it through a modern understanding of reality. We know that everything is energy. Yeah, everything is energy, and energy can behave either as a wave, so it can kind of move, or Yeah, I suppose. Okay, let me take it back a bit more. So everything in life, everything in this life is made out of energy. Yeah, energy is functioning all the time. It just kind of forms itself into something that looks dense, but it's not, or it kind of unfolds itself and it becomes just a wave, just movement all the time. If I use a simple example, call it the sun. Okay, so the sun is a source of light. Sun is a source of all light to some extent. Let's just use this example. The sun has rays, and all the rays are shining the light of the sun. The sun is just energy. It's just pure, raw energy, and each one of its rays is pure energy. What Patanjali is trying to explain is in a simple way. The sun is the source of all life, and he calls it by name Ishvara. And he says the sun has a particular vibration. That vibration encompasses all the other vibration that comes from the sun. The sun is everything. That vibration is Om. So on the kind of substratum, Om is at the base of everything, because everything is created from this sun. All these other rays coming out of the sun have their own specific vibration, particular mantras, but they all come originally from the mantra of Om. And what is Om? Ishvara. So Ishvara is to some extent a physical representation of a subtle, energetic understanding of sound waves. Om. Okay, so this is a big teaching from Patanjali. He's not talking to us about specific deities. He's not naming specific deities. He's recognizing, yes, there is a source, the substratum underneath everything. There is one cohesive thing that is in everything, and we can call it as the fingerprint of God. Yeah, it's presented in everything. We can say it's like a fractal. It's always there in everything. You look really deep enough, you see it there. That's a signature of God, made in God. Yeah, Om. Ishvara. Okay, the name is Ishvara, the sound is Om, the shape is everything, the entire universe. So Patanjali is not religious here, and he's not describing a religion, but he acknowledges that everything is one, and that's Ishvara, that's Om. And then he's saying that if you want to reach yoga, as in the state of union, all you need to do is come into, he calls it japa, or repetition of Om, the pranava. Pranava is Om, and so if you just repeat Om, 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 and he means all the time, you will be one with Om, because where you put your mind and your energy, you become it. So there is a way to reach the source of everything by repeating Om wholeheartedly, all the time, with reverence. It's a big, big teaching from Patanjali. And he's explaining that if you do that, you will reach yoga. You will become one with yoga. He says, there are obstacles, and he names lots of obstacles. There's quite a few obstacles here. In Sutra 130, we have a whole list of them, and in 131 we have the moods associated with them. And again, I've done this in the previous talks. I'm not going to repeat, but in a simple way, from laziness to sloth to illness and so on, losing of ground gain and all sorts of things, bad company. There are obstacles, and they cause, in a simple way, they cause suffering. There is a way to move away from these obstacles. Yeah, and all you need to do is practice. So I'll do it here, just to get these things right. Yeah. As he mentioned before, Vyasa mentioned before, we have 5 states of mind. Patanjali has mentioned it here now. How do we move away from obstacles and get back into source, back into Om, back into Ishvara, back into yoga, back into everything? Focus the mind. Focus the mind. So coming back to the example of the sun and its rays, we can get attached to all the rays and think, oh, this is really beautiful, but we can't get anywhere because we need to get into the sun. He says, follow one thing. So in a way, if you think about it, just follow one ray of sunlight, grab that, really understand and follow it back, kind of reverse engineer it, trace it back to its source, you will reach God. You will reach divine. You will reach Raja Yoga, the royal path. by focusing on one thing. He gives a list of a few different things. I'm not going to name it here again. It's all there in the text. A few various things because he is really understandable of how different people are. So you can focus on light, you can focus on sound, you can focus on this, you can focus on that. Find one thing you can focus on fully, continuously, and write it back home to the source of it all. Okay, that's a big teaching of Patanjali. You don't have to be doing anything specifically. There's not just one way better than the other way. All the ways are fine. Just choose one that works for you. But stay true to it. And I repeat again from Sutra 114, repeat it all the time, day in, day out, for a long period of time, with earnestness, full-heartedly. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Samadhi is near for those who are wholehearted and steadfast. Just keep doing it. You will get there. If not tomorrow, then next year, or in 10 years' time, or in 10 lifetimes, you will get there, but you have to practice. So the highlight, according to some traditions, which I mentioned again last month, the highlight of the Yoga Sutras, and especially the first path, the highest path, is Sutra 136, which states Vishoka va Jyotismatir. The highest state of absorption of yoga is when you reach Vishoka, when there is no more suffering. You remove the suffering and you reach a state of pure light. Jyotish Smatir, Jyoti is light. So the highest state of yoga is to be absorbed into pure light with complete bliss. That is what he is teaching. It's not explained how to get there. It's a code for those who know, or for those who understand that they need to look for someone who knows and can explain to them. And many of these teachings here are written in code. So when you read them, face value, they mean nothing, or they mean not much. Or they sometimes even can be a bit tricky. They can mean different things. So you need to find a teacher who's learned from a teacher, who's learned from a teacher, who has carried on a lineage of teaching that is very, very long. Not because that means that that they are more authentic. It just means that they have found something that works and they've been passing that on, which makes them authentic, obviously. So it's not about finding a yoga school that has very fancy words attached to it, or people in long robes who look the part. It's about finding a particular system that's been handed down from teacher to disciple, teacher to disciple, teacher to disciple for many, many, many generations, because that system works. Otherwise, it will not be handed down. So that's important. Okay, so in those traditions, you find the explanations to all the codes that are written in the Yoga Sutras, because they are codes, because they are not meant as a book to entertain our mind and to sound, oh, this sounds good, oh, nice. It's not nice, it's not good. It's something to practice. So find a good teacher. Okay. So that's pretty much book number 1, Samadhi, and with all these special teachings that we just looked at. Book number 2 starts with the Kriya Yoga system, the system of the free part of Kriya Yoga, which again I explain, I just repeat them very briefly. We have the tapas, swadhyaya, ishvara pranidhanam, doing things which are hard on a regular basis. We know why, it's good for us. Repeating repetitions, so swadhyaya is either self-study or repeating of mantras. What are the mantras? They are frequencies. Where do all frequencies come from? The sun. What is the sun? Om. What is Om? God. What happens when we reach God? Everything. Of course you want to do that. And the last one is literally that, Ishvara Pranidhana, being one with Ishvara, merging into Ishvara, into the source of it all. That's yoga. Slightly harder, no, it's not harder, so I take it back. Slightly easier than the first one. We have more things to do. Slightly easier. It's still not the easiest. There's still quite a lot of hard work involved in that, because tapas, doing things we don't like, doing things that are hard, is not easy, but it's worth it. But if you still can't do that, then you can have the 8 limbs of yoga. The 8 limbs of yoga is the third path, still leading to the same place which is yoga, which is samadhi. Just through 8 steps, which are easier because they are more understandable, they are more, I suppose, supportive of people who struggle more. Okay, so in the first limbs of the 8 limb path, the first limbs are yama and niyama. So we know them as the kind of, or the foundations or the stepping stones, the key principles that every yogin should be following, which is the codes of conduct. Not like the 10th commandment, but you can sort of compare them to the 10th commandment as an allegory, because it's the rules to live by. Why? Because they help you to have a very steady mind. So I'm using this example and also coming back to Sutra 133. Sutra 133, Patanjali is explaining that the way to maintain a state of very calm, detached mind is by being happy for those who are happy, kind of being supported to them, not being affected by those who are unhappy, not getting drawn in for those who are wicked, and so on and so forth. So it sounds like it's very much about how to live with other people, about relationships. Yes, it is. But it's not only that. In the same way, the first and the second limbs of the Ashtanga Yoga, yama and niyama, sounds like they're talking about how to be a better person for other people, because it says, be truthful, don't harm everyone. Yeah, don't harm everyone first, sorry. Then be truthful, don't steal, don't covet. Yeah, be clean, cleanliness and various things like that. It sounds like a very kind of code of contact between us and other people. It is. And so is the Sutra 33. Be kind to other people, support, don't judge, don't be harsh with other people. It sounds like it's about us and other people. It is. But really it's not. Ultimately, these things are for you to develop your own karmic balancing sheet. Okay, so we have karmas, and we can't ignore the fact that karmas are mentioned here. The karmas are mentioned many times in the Yoga Sutras. In Book 2, Sutra 12, again, Patanjali explains a bit more about karmas. And he's basically saying that everything you do has a result. Action has a reaction. Laws of nature, we know that. Every action has a reaction. If you keep doing bad things, you will get bad results. If you're planting onions, you will be eating onions. If you plant a mango, you will not get an onion. If you plant an onion, you will not get a mango. Things come naturally from one thing to another, cause and effect. Of course. When you are acting in a way which is harmful for other beings, that cause a bad karma to yourself. Of course to them too. Of course they're important, without a doubt. But Patanjali is talking to you now. He's saying how you can get better, how you can reach yoga, not other people, you. So while he's given these kind of rules of conduct, it's not about other people. It's about how you will not acquire more bad karma by working better with other people. And I think it's a beautiful thing, because it's the simplest kind of live and let live, but do no harm rule, which is the laws of nature. Live and let live, do no harm. Yeah, anybody wants to do something, let them do whatever they want to do, as long as you are not harmed by it, or you are not harming them by it, or they are not harming other beings by it. It's fine. Do whatever you want to do. But realize that your actions, your thoughts will have an effect. So do it for yourself, to keep yourself as karmic pure or karmic balanced as possible. So a very, very big teaching from here. Patanjali is presenting the 8 limbs because he's saying that ultimately knowledge will grow if impurities are destroyed. He said there are impurities in the mind, they cloud our visions. There's 5 impurities. The greatest one is the first one, known as avidya, or a misunderstanding of reality. And to be honest, pretty much every person off the street doesn't really understand the point of life. Why do we live here? What's the point of life? What is life? Most people don't really understand that because nobody explained it to us. Because it's really difficult to understand that. And in the words of, in the language of Patanjali, it's called that avidya, or misunderstanding. To not see things clearly. To not realize that everything is energy. Energy never goes away, but it can change its nature from kind of positive to negative energy. When we don't realize that, when we feel like we need to grab more for ourselves because there's not enough for others, or in a simple way, when we think that I will live forever, because of course I will, but I don't. When we feel like, oh no, maybe, whatever it is, we don't understand reality. If we start to understand things as they truly are, that we are energy, we are just a ray of sunlight coming from the original sun, all is Om, all is God, then our life will change. Because we don't understand that, we start to act in a bad way in the world. So coming out of that is asmita, or the birth of the ego, the sense of separation. I'm just me and not you, which is useful to some extent as long as we know it's only a tool rather than who we are. For example, as a child, you do need to look after yourself. You need to feed yourself. Not just as a child, you always need to feed yourself, otherwise you will die. You need to breathe, otherwise you will die. You need to drink, otherwise you will die. You need to do various actions in the world all the time, otherwise life will not be good. So that's the ego looking after itself, after its body, after its mind. As long as there is a knowing there that this is not really who you are, this is just your vehicle, but it's not really you, then you're fine. In a simple way, I just use the word vehicle, so I'll carry on with that one. Think of it as you sitting in a car and you looking after your car. So you wipe the windows, or you get your windscreen wipers. You fill in the liquid because you need them to work. And you need to check the oil occasionally. Obviously, you need to put some petrol or diesel or electricity, whatever you use in your whatever energy you use to run your car. To check the tire pressure is good. You need to do your MOT. You need to do your you need to look after your car. That's life. We're looking after our car. Aham car, I am myself. Aham car sounds like I am my car to some extent. If you do that on a regular basis, you will have good life in a good body. But never forget, you are not your car. You're the driver inside the car. And that's what Patanjali is saying. We have forgotten that we are the driver, and we just think we are the cars. We think we are the vehicles, the body, the sheath, which is external. That is avidya. Once you realize you are not that, life will change. Until that time, there's 2 things happening here. There's a push and pull, which is kind of the laws of nature. Yin yang, push pull, dark bright, and in the language of the Yoga Sutras, is raga and dvesha. Raga is to want, and dvesha is to not want. Pull and push. Okay, and that brings suffering, and the greatest suffering of all, the fear of death. What is death? The end of things. The end of things is the death. So I have a glass of water, and once I finish drinking the water, the water is dead. It's finished. So the greatest fear is the fear of death, the fear of the finished, the unknown. When this body will die, what will happen? I don't know. I'm scared of it. That's the greatest fear. It only comes out of ignorance because I don't remember that I'm everything. I was never born. I will never die. Who I really am, my soul, the Atman, what's the spark within me, is eternal. But as long as I forget that and identify with my car, my vehicle, my mind, my body, my thoughts, then I live in a state of fear. How do we overcome this inability to perceive reality as it really is? Through cultivation of what's known as viveka kyatir, or discernment, discernment, that's the word, or discriminative discernment, to see things as they really are, to see into every situation through the kind of, X-ray vision of yoga. How do we cultivate this X-ray vision of yoga? The 8 limbs of yoga. Okay, so this is the last path Patanjali is given here, which extends towards the end of book 2 and starts to go into book 3. So the first 15 sutras of book 3 are still part of book 2, the 8 limbs of yoga. The 8 limbs of yoga, in fact it's book 2, sutra 46, is the first time we come across the instructions for asana. So Yoga Sutra is the highest book of yoga, the highest source, authority on yoga, and it took almost 2 chapters to reach the word asana. Why? What does it mean to us? It means that asana is not what Patanjali is talking about. It means that asana is not really the most important thing of yoga. It means that asana is a very small part within this big framework that we call yoga. It's there, it's important, but it's tiny in its importance. So Sutra 46 to 48, so these 3 sutras talk about asana, and because obviously we talk about yoga, and because we do believe that asana is, because we do believe that asana is the kind of a very important part of yoga, we must talk about asana. What is he saying about asana? Patanjali is saying that asana is a steady, comfortable seat. That once we are able to maintain a steady and a comfortable seat, then we can move into the deeper aspects of yoga. Asana is not about perfecting a physical shape. It's about perfecting a mind which is able to sustain its natural stage of being absorbed. How do we do that? Stop the tendencies towards restlessness. Sit up. Sit still. Bring yourself to the present moment. And then the mind will go into a different place. What does that mean? It means that asana is never about chasing shapes. It's not about the shape. It's what's happening inside of you while you hold the shape. And I mean, hand on heart, for many, many years, I've been chasing shapes. I still do, because I enjoy the shapes. I like moving my body. I got, I suppose, a good relationship with my body. Not always healthy, but a good relationship with my body. And generally speaking, I enjoy moving the body. At some point during my yoga, I suppose, training, if I call it training, because it is training, I realized that I was getting too hung up about chasing shapes. And I realized that it was actually nothing to do with yoga. It wasn't making me a better person. It wasn't making me feel better. And it wasn't taking me any closer to what I would like to think yoga is. And for many, many years, my practice has been pretty much asana based. I would go down to my yoga room and just do lots of asanas. Yes, do some breathing with them, sit occasionally, hold some things longer, but it was more asana driven. Nowadays it's very different. I will come down and yes, I'll do some warm up. I'll get my body moving because you wake up in the morning feeling quite stiff. It's still a bit cold here, so I'll put some heating on and get moving. And after a while, I will sit down and then just do internal things because I will cultivate the shape. I'm kind of sit now. Now I'm fairly comfortable and the mind is more present, less distracted by duality. Now I can go in and do yoga for real. Until then it was just shapes. I'm not saying everybody can do that straight away. I'm not saying everybody should be doing that. I'm not saying yoga is only that. I'm just quoting Patanjali. And Patanjali is saying asana is about cultivating stability and ease. Because when you have stability and ease, you can move further in your mind. Pranically. Yeah, prana, energy, mind, chitta, they move together away from the body. The body is there, made still. Okay, shut up now, body. Let's move somewhere else. So that's really what Patanjali is talking about when he's saying asana. Be still so you can do the inner work. Okay, so again with pranayama, he's saying pranayama should not be practiced by those who haven't mastered asana yet. If your body is not comfortable enough to be still, then your mind is not comfortable enough to be still. Which means if you start to bring more prana into your system, it will be too much for you. So you have to be, first of all, prepared, energetically, mentally, physically prepared to bring in more prana into your body, which is pranayama. Once you have, then the mind goes into a deeper stage of absorption, eventually leading to samadhi. And as I said, this is where we go into book 3, when it talks about higher states of samadhi. And then once you reach higher stage of samadhi, then all the powers or the siddhis start to come into play. So book 3 is all about the siddhis, the powers that the yogis can cultivate. And there's a whole list of siddhis. So I got the list here. I did write it down somewhere. Oh, there's loads. Okay, I'm not going to read them all. There's knowledge of past and future. Knowledge of communicating with non-human beings. Yeah? Knowledge of previous birth. Knowledge of other people's minds. You can mind read. Invisibility. Mastery of the element. Knowledge of time of death. Compassion. Superhuman strength. And so on. There's quite a few more. It's a long list. The important thing to remember is that the list of powers is not the goal, nor is it the motivation to practice. Powers may come, may not come. Powers are traps, because powers hold you down in the power center, which is the Manipura chakra, the navel center. We don't want to stop there. We want to go all the way to here and to here and to there. So for that, we are overcoming the powers, or overcoming the draw of the power, the magnetic power that will hold us downwards. We want to move away from that. Which is why it's chapter 3 that these things come, not chapter 1 or chapter 2, because they are distractions. Patanjali is mentioning them because to an extent, when you realize your powers are coming through, you know, oh yes, I'm reaching quite a high stage. It's almost like with a certificate, with a tick, yes, you're doing well, keep going. Don't get stuck there. Okay, so I will not get stuck there as well. And I'm just going to come to a summary. Because yes, we have realized that there's a very, very long path here of yoga that leads us from the first kind of step of a very distracted, dull, moody, overwhelmed mind into a mind which is razor sharp. So razor sharp, it developed like amazing powers, mind powers. In between that, from Alpha to Omega, what takes us through all these letters is one word. It's called practice. Yeah, and practice, how do we practice? Every day, for a long period of time, without any break, and with reverence. Again and again and again, whether we are healthy or whether we are ill, whether we have 5 hours or 2 seconds. Show up every single day. Show up to life. Show up to yourself. Show up to your mind. Show up to your innate ability. Because why? Because you were born here for a reason, and you were drawn to these things because you've done these things before. You are more than likely a Videha yogin. You've been here before. You've done these things before. You're here to continue. Continue. So show up. And at some point, all this past knowledge is going to just come into you. People call it now downloads. Where's this all coming from? It's not coming from the outside. It's coming from you. There is no outside. It's all within you. You are it. Everything is you. So that's the idea. Okay, so that's kind of the end of this particular talk. So again, key teachings from the Yoga Sutras. It's all about the mind. It's all about merging back with the source of it all, the infinite mind that we can call it by name, Ishvara. We can give it a frequency that has a sound related to that, Om. This is what's all about. Just get back in there. Okay, it's your path. You're drawn for this for a reason. You have done this before. Keep going. In a nutshell. Okay. So, very happy for, obviously, if anybody wants to say something, contribute, ask something, you're very welcome to unmute yourself. It's quite a lot, and sometimes you need to hear these things a few more times to kind of get in there and really try to bite into that. It's quite meaty. Just to say, before we go to that, just to say that next month we're moving to other things. We're moving away from Yoga Sutras, not because we know it all, not because we kind of qualified and graduated from Yoga Sutras, just because there's so many more interesting things out there. I highly recommend not to put Yoga Sutras on the shelf, keep them on your mat and keep revisiting them. I'm not talking about the sutra as in the book itself, I'm talking about the understandings. You will not be able to ever say, I know it all, I don't need to do it anymore. You will always need to go deeper and deeper and deeper through the levels, through the layers. After, decades of studying this, you will still find new levels, new depths. You will, I promise. I have. It's beautiful to think that, I've looked at these things 20 years ago, I look at it now, I see completely different things. It's very encouraging because I'm really excited about the next 20 years and where that will take me. So I highly recommend that. But next month we move to other things. Okay, sorry. Conversation open if anybody wants to say anything. Don't have to. It can be a bit overwhelming.
Thank you, Manny.
A pleasure.
I think I need to listen to it again and more times because it takes a while to sink in. It's
yeah.
Yes. It's just repetition, I guess.
It is, yeah. That's the key, definitely. Practice again and again and again and again and again. Yeah, some things, and in a way, some things kind of, they hit home very quickly, and some things will not, and some things will not make sense until maybe, 10 years time, and then all of a sudden be like, oh yeah.
10 years, yeah.
And
how many sutras did you say there are?
Sorry?
How many sutras did you say there are? 195.
195, yeah.
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 So it's going to take a decade to get through them.
Yeah. Okay. On that note, I would say book 1, book 2, very important. Book 3, book 4, not as relevant for us. Okay, they're there, and it's very interesting to study them. But for the sake of practice, ignore them. Book 1, book 2. I'll take it back. Book 1, book 2, up to book 3, 15. Beyond that, we don't really need to go there. It's not really relevant. It might be relevant for you. It's not relevant for me and for pretty much anybody that I know, because it's too high teachings. It's very advanced. These teachings were given to us from Patanjali, but they're much, much older than that. Possibly from an era where humans were more evolved, and we're not. Where our mind is just too dull, too distracted. So yeah, book 1 and 2. Again and again and again. Highly recommend it.
Okay, brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's no point doing something that is basically going to push the body beyond where we are, where we live.
Definitely. It needs to be relevant. Yeah, so coming back to what I said in the beginning, these teachings are pointless if they're not grounded in reality. So just ground yourself in reality, in things that work for you.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. Yeah. Thanks, Manny.
Pleasure. Thank you. Okay, so thank you very much for being part of this. And yes, let these teachings grow within you. If you can, just let it play in the background again and again and again. If you have the book, keep flicking through it again and again and again. Apply these things. Find something that speaks to you and make it part of you. Make it so part of you that it feels like you wrote it. It was always within you. Let the teachings come from within you. So they're not, coming from outside, being processed by you, and then you spew them out. It comes from within you. And you do that by repeating them again and again and again. That's the secret. Repetition. Okay. Namaste. Wish you all a fantastic evening, morning, day. And if there are any questions coming from this, following this talk, once you heard it, just send me an email. I'll be happy to carry on discussing these things. Okay, until then, all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ta-da!
Thank you. Bye. Bye, Catherine. Bye, Yvonne.